Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with New York City Brazilian jazz guitarist Eduardo Mercuri. We caught up with him on June 8th to talk about this new COVID-19 world of no live jazz. We discussed what he's been doing and the hope for the future, along with a little bit more. Enjoy. Well, it sounds like you've been busy. So, before we get into, the new singles that are coming out, kind of talk to me. I've been trying to get kind of an idea from musicians, like your personal story of like mid-March, early March, when you started figuring out that we were heading towards this point we're at where there was going to be no live music for a while.
Wow. So yeah, it was a big. This thing made me realize how fragile the gigging musician life is in a way, because we are all dependent on live music, and I actually don't know. I don't remember which was my last date, but it was a Tuesday, like right before the thing like really closed down I think it was in March. Still my last gig was in March, but then after that it was, I realized that I wasn't going to do any of the planning that I was doing, and that affected a lot my source of income, right? Because I wasn't teaching much before. Most of my income was coming from gigs, and then I realized that I had to do something about it. It wasn't easy, but I started picking up online students since then, and so far it's been going okay, not the best, and I miss playing live a lot. Also, I've been doing a lot of recording. But yeah, it wasn't an easy thing to do, I had to reevaluate and think about how to monetize on a situation like that, trying to put up some videos online and see if I can grow my YouTube channel and stuff like that,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's all about kind of surviving what's going on here.
There's one thing that really, the whole pandemic situation and the quarantine, it helped me realize one thing that I was, I already knew, but I wasn't taking an action on it, because I was doing a lot of gigs that was mainly to pay the bills, like not doing something that was actually helping my career. In a way, I was just paying the bills, We have to do what we have to do. I was doing weddings, doing all kinds of different gigs, so I could make ends meet. And as far as living the life that way, it was okay. But in the long term, I wasn't focusing on my career the way I should have been. The fact that I was unable to do those gigs for a while. I'm still unable to do it. That made me realize how much time I had to actually invest in my thing, which was amazing, actually, In a way, I felt it was really needed. I needed to do this. And in this way, I was forced to do it. And I tried to be as more productive as I could, and, reshaped my YouTube channel, reshaped my website, studied a lot about music business and how to get into radios and Spotify playlists and all kinds of stuff like that. And, and then I started producing content. So I feel it wasn't a total bad thing to happen,
Yeah, I think that's the thing about it. There's been silver linings, and I guess you have some singles coming out. Talk to me a little bit about, what's coming up for you, when they're coming out, and kind of, just kind of the inspiration.
I have 2 singles coming out, and they were all produced during this time. Everybody doing it at home, at their home studios, and it's funny because the first single is called Quem Sabe de Ti, which is in Portuguese, is the one who knows about you. and it's a tune that I wrote, inspired by a great Brazilian composer and guitar player called Toninho Horta. He had worked with Wayne Shorter, with a lot of people, and Milton Nascimento. He's most known for his work with Milton. He's a guy from Brazil. He's still alive, and I met him in 2017. And we spent the whole day hanging out, and, we had lunch together. I saw him playing, and then we had coffee and stuff. And then when I went home, I was super inspired with all the things that I heard and I saw him doing on the guitar on that day. And then I went home and I wrote the tune in like 15 minutes, which is not my usual thing to do. Normally, I try to revisit the stuff and see if it's really there or if I have to fix something. But it was very, it's almost like I didn't create the tune. I was just there listening, and the thing came up, It was funny. It was very good. So this is the first single that is coming up. It will be up on the 13th of this month, and it features some old friends of mine, like the Chicago, he's from Chicago, but he's Boston-based, a drummer called Mark Walker. He plays with the Paquito de Rivera group. And then also on bass, on that track, I have Richard Mikkel, which is a guy here from Brooklyn that I met in a jam session. And we became buddies since then. And we haven't been able to do a real gig still, because I met him like right before this thing happened. And also on percussion on this track is Kanyanabe. It's a guy from Japan that I met in Boston during the time I was there. And a good friend of mine who went to Berkeley with me and did his master's together with me his name is Edmar Colon. He's a upcoming star in the saxophone. And he's a guy from Puerto Rico, from Cuamo, Puerto Rico. And so he's been my friend since 2011, when I moved to the United States. And it's we finally put something together, and it was super cool. Those guys, everybody recorded at home, and it's funny how that thing sounds like we're in the studio together.
My final question I wanted to ask you was, we are going to get back to the stage. We're going to get back to live music. What do you hope both the musician and the audience realizes from this time away from music?
Wow, that's a good question. I think for the musicians, in a way, we always took for granted that we could do that live. So, I don't know. Talking about myself, I was trying to put up 100% of my game to any gig that I was doing. But, I wasn't sometimes I was just doing a gig, and focusing on another thing. Like, okay, I have this big project coming up, but I'm up to there. I have a lot of gigs, and I wasn't giving that much importance for those gigs anyways, And there's something about with playing with friends, man. It's it's a different thing. Like, by doing these home studio recordings, we can emulate some of the interaction that we can do in a jazz setting. But honestly, the magic of it, I feel like it's almost like impossible to recreate without playing together at the same time, So I feel like as musicians, we have to just try to cherish those moments more when we come back to being able to play with people. And as an audience, I feel like people should just give more value to music, because nowadays everything is free, and people listen to music for free, and sometimes they go to shows that are free too. And people creating art, they still have to pay the bills, and it's hard enough during no pandemic times to do that. And I feel like with the corona, most of my friends who are non musicians, they realize already that art is such an important part of life, and they were giving the attention or the support that they should have been giving, you know?
Yeah, I dig it. I dig it. Hey, man, this has been great. Thank you for opening up about the new work and this world that we're living in. Stay safe and good luck with everything. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, man.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Eduardo for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.